and you see the ram in the European Roman Christian art. Why is that ram in their Christian art? Because they were deifying and worshiping Amun. Is this animal worship here? If they have the animal ram represented as Amun in their art and it's not animal worship, why they come into Kemet and say animal worship and pagan and heathen and polytheism and all these other type of negative terms? Let's look at this. When you also go and look at and see the ram or the lamb over, as you see a Roman character of a Jesus here, it looks like. But when you look at that figure with the ram or the lamb over the shoulders, it was taken from Kemet when I showed you when the ram or the lamb in ancient Kemet, where the king became one with Amun and the Zoot type was the ram. But let's go over 4,000 years ago to the tomb of Merope. In the tomb of Merope of the 6th dynasty over 4,000 years ago, that existed thousands of years ago on your reliefs in the books in stone with the ram or the lamb around his head long before the Roman art. As you see the priest with the ram around his neck. But when we look at Leonardo da Vinci's artwork, you see Leonardo da Vinci's artwork with the lamb or ram around his neck. You can see where the origin of that came from. But this is carved in Merope's tomb over 4,000 years ago, long before Leonardo da Vinci's European image of the Jesus that you see right here. This is one of the sculptures of Europeans of Jesus as a good shepherd with the lamb around his head. But when I went to England to the museum, the brother saw me with all the equipment and he said, "Brother, what are you all about?" I said, "I'm here to document our story. You got anything in here?" He said, "I'll help you out." He took me in the back room where the tourists don't go. And you know what he showed me? Where they copied it from right here. Wow. Oh, yes, brothers and sisters, huh? It's time for the liberation of your mind now, huh? This is what they got locked up in the museum in England right now today, showing the true African Jesus right here, where the Europeans copied from this one to make their version of it right here. So again, right here, brothers and sisters, you can see where the whole concept of the Trinity came from, where you see Men-Kepera, or Thutmose III, that you see right here in the middle, and then you see Amun on one side, and Mut has been chiseled out. But this is where the Coptics came in and tried to make a cross to make you think this has something to do with Christianity. Where the concept of the Trinity was right here in the temple of Amun. And tell me what the Trinity of Amun was. Amun, Mut, and Khonsu. So here they cut them out to make you think this is in fact the cross. So if the temples were supposed to be so pagan and so heathen as they tell us, then why would they use it as a church? And why would they copy many of the concepts from the Medu Neter, many of the stories of ancient Kemet, and then take the symbolisms to try to make it look like it has something to do with Christianity? But we are told it's supposed to be so pagan and heathen, but yet they came in and built the Coptic church right down in the temple. Because this is the beginning and the foundation of spirituality until it was changed over to a Western concept of religion. What you see right there is the pyramid, is the boat of Khufu. That is his solar boat. This boat is 140 feet long, longer than Captain Cook's boat. When this boat was excavated in 1954, in a pit, over 1,200 pieces, the boat was dismantled. And they reconstructed, took 1,200 pieces to reconstruct this boat of Khufu. Now, what was the purpose of this boat? This boat was called the Nuank. What is the Nuank? What was the Nuank? The flooding of the Nile was called the Nuank. Now, when the Nile flooded, it was Khufu who realized that he could take his solar astral journey through the Nile to the celestial Nile, that was the Milky Way, to take him back to his father, Asar. So the Milky Way was looked at as the celestial Nile, like the earthly Nile. So it was the Nuank that took him back. That was the purpose of his boat. That later it was corrupted into Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark was taken from the Nuank. This is where it came from. Nowhere are you going to find no Noah's Ark. Flood. There were many floods. There was the flood of Zoser. It was Zoser during the time when he commissioned to Canaan and to Upper Kemet to let the flood waters of the Nuank come back to flood the land, because here you see the drought took place, and Canaan said, you have not given recognition to your homeland, the south, Upper Egypt. And then we see Canaan let the flood waters open up. This is where we get the story. This information is not given to no one here but you, because you got a whole different reason for being back here. And that is to tell the truth. We want the truth and nothing but the truth. That's what we want here. You see? It's a new day. Something is opening up here. It's a spiritual consciousness. So you are looking at the Nuank, where the Noah's Ark came from. The Nuank. That's the origin. Now they got it encased in this casing here. That boat was a spiritual, symbolic boat to symbolically to take Khufu back to the celestial now. What was the purpose of the celestial now? The celestial now symbolically took him back to his spiritual father and first father, that was Asar. So here you see the inundation of the Nile connected with the Milky Way. This was called the Nuank. The flooding of the Nile was called the Nuank. And that was the purpose of Khufu's boat, was symbolically and spiritually was to take him back to his spiritual father. And that was during the inundation. So when the Nuank took place, that spiritually told us that we would connect to the Milky Way. That Nuank was corrupted to Noah's Ark. We got the boats, brothers and sisters. Here's the boat right here. If you went back to over 4,000 years ago in the fourth dynastic period and asked Khufu about Noah, boy, what's wrong with you? I don't know nothing about old Noah. Here's my boat right here. Here's all the animals of the world doing the number 1, number 2, and everything. They just tell us any kind of stories. That's why they can only give you a picture of the story. But yet this flood was supposed to have taken place because we are told that God in the Bible said that he was tired, that because in Genesis chapter 1 through 6, the sons of God married the daughters of men. Is that right? This is where we were at fault in Kemet, because we married foreign women on our African throne. Although we would never marry none of our own to the foreigners, because they were goddesses. Here, during the 5th dynasty, this African king is called Sahara. Now, here's the first time that we get a concept called Sa-Ra. Sa-Ra means the son of God. They were the sons of God in Kemet, marrying the daughters of men onto the throne of Kemet. This is where you get the concept in Genesis chapter 1, where the sons of God married the daughters of men, was taken from ancient Kemet. Brothers and sisters, here we have holy texts, holy writings. We've gone into Unis's pyramid. We've gone into Teti's pyramid. Spiritual writing when the Sahu, the spiritual body, astro projected. This is long before biblical text was even in existence.